Have you ever wondered if AI can replicate real-world tactical styles in FM24? Sir Alex Ferguson is widely regarded as the greatest manager of the Premier League era. His managerial career would have humble beginnings as he first took charge at East Stirling and then St Mirren. Whilst at St Mirren, he would transform the team from mid-table Division 2 team to Division 1 champions. This opened the door for him to take his first big Scottish job in Aberdeen. It would take him a while to transform the team, but his persistence paid off as they won the Scottish League in the 79-80 season and followed it up with the Cup Winners' Cup in 82-83 and the Super Cup in 83-84. His next move would see him manage Scotland in the 1986 World Cup after the passing of Jock Stein. He would return to club football in the summer of 86, but had already declared his intention to leave. In November 1986, he would be appointed Manchester United manager. Despite a slow start at the club, he was determined to make it work, and he did just that. He would win 13 league titles, 5 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, 2 European Cups, and famously led Manchester United to the 98-99 treble with the core of the players from the class of 92. Will the AI be able to capture the magic of Fergie and replicate his football style? In today's video, we're going to put AI's ability to recreate real-world tactics to the test. So the first thing that I would do is head over to Grok to ask for its advice. I would ask Grok, can you create me a Sir Alex Ferguson tactic for FM24? This is Grok's response. Creating a Sir Alex Ferguson inspired tactic for Football Manager 2024 involves capturing the essence of his Manchester United teams, which were known for their adaptability, attacking flair and directness, often using a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3/4-2-3-1 hybrid depending on the era. Below is a detailed tactic inspired by the 2007-2008 Manchester United side, which won the Premier League and Champions League, blending his classic principles with FM24's match engine. This tactic emphasises fast transitions, wing play and a balance between structure and creativity. The tactic overview for Sir Alex Ferguson's 4-4-2/4-3-3 hybrid formation is a 4-4-2, which adapts to 4-3-3 in possession. Style: direct attacking football with quick transitions and flexible player roles to mimic Ferguson's fluidity. Philosophy: emulate Ferguson's focus on exploiting wide areas, encouraging creativity in attack and maintaining defensive solidarity without being rigid. The tactic aims to balance high-tempo wing play with a strong team mentality. So let's jump into FM24 and set up this tactic. Okay, I've now loaded up FM24, started a brand new save game, and I've selected a preset 4-4-2 and customised it using Grok's instructions. I'm going to go through the 3 main sections of the tactic, which are the in possession, the in transition and the out of possession. I'll then run you through the players and the player instructions. But to kick things off, we have a tactical style that is custom. I started off with a clean slate and have built this 4-4-2 from the ground up. Its mentality is positive. Fergie's teams would always try and play on the front foot but not be overcommitted. In terms of the in possession, it will look like this. And Grok says, passing directness, slightly more direct. Encourages quick forward passes to unsettle opponents, which is a hallmark of Fergie's teams. The tempo should be higher. High tempo to move the ball quickly from defence to attack. Width fairly wide, stretches the opposition to create space for wingers and overlapping fullbacks. Play through, mixed passing focus, allows flexibility for wingers to exploit flanks and midfielders to play through the centre. Creative freedom, more expressive, gives players like the wide playmaker and strikers freedom to improvise, reflecting Fergie's trust in his stars. Moving on into in transition. Counter press should be set to yes. Press aggressively after losing the ball to win it back, mimicking United's relentless work rate. Counter, yes. Exploit transitions with pacey wingers and runners like at the advance forward. Distribute quickly. Keeper distributes to fullbacks or midfielders to start attacks fast. Regroup, no. Avoid sitting back too passively, as Fergie's teams rarely retreated for too long. Then finally onto the out of possession, where it says defensive line should be set to standard, balanced to avoid being too exposed whilst allowing space for counters. The pressing intensity should be more urgent. Press opponents to disrupt their rhythm, but not overly aggressive to maintain the shape. Pressing trap to trap outside, and defensive width to force outside. Now, some of those options are not actually available in FM24, so I have replicated that tactic and the instructions given as closely as I can. Moving on to the players. So we're going to start off at the back with a goalkeeper set to defend, and he will come with no player instructions. Moving on to the fullback, which is on the right hand side. He's a fullback set to support with the instruction of stay wider. Ball playing defender next, set to defend with take more risks and hold position. A central defender that has shoot less often, dribble less and hold position. Wing back on the left hand side is set to support with dribble more, run wide with the ball and get further forward. On the left hand side we have a wide playmaker set to support with shoot less often, cut inside with the ball, take more risks, cross less often, sit narrower and roam from position. On the right hand side we have a winger set to attack, run with the ball, shoot more often, dribble more, cross more often, cross from the byline, get further forward and stay wider. In the middle, we have a deep line playmaker set to defend with shoot less often, dribble less and hold position. And we have a box-to-box midfielder set to support with the instructions get further forward and roam from position. Moving to the top end of the pitch, we have a deep lying forward who is set to support with the instructions roam from position, hold up the ball, take more risks and move into the channels. And finally, we have an advanced forward set to attack, where his only instruction is to move into the channels. Now, obviously, there are some instructions that Grok says to give the players that we actually can't edit into the player positions for one reason or another. So once again, this is as close as I could get it using Grok's instructions to make the tactic match what it has given me. So that is the tactic. Those are the player roles. The big question here is, can this AI created tactic really replicate Fergie? What is going to happen when we put this to the test? Before I put this tactic to the test, I would really love to know your thoughts and opinions on the 4-4-2 tactic that Grok has just created. Do you think that it can be a success in FM24? Is 4-4-2 still a tactic that works well in the game? For this, I'm going to test it with 3 of Fergie's former teams. I'm going to use Manchester United, Aberdeen and St Mirren. Will the tactic be able to thrust Manchester United back into Premier League contention? Will Aberdeen be able to crack the old firm? And will St Mirren be able to stay in the SPFL? Or will they be able to go on even better and push towards the top of the table? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And whilst you're there, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and like this video and check out the rest of the content on the channel. Right then, it's time to put this tactic to the test. To kick the results roundup off, I'm going to take a look at the Scottish Premiership. We have 2 teams represented in the same league, so rather than try and mask the performance of one or the other teams, we're going to take a look at the league in whole. What I'll then do is move on to St Mirren's results, Aberdeen's results, and then we'll move down south into England to check in with Manchester United to see how they get on using this AI 4-4-2 tactic. Right then, let's kick things off in the Scottish Premiership, where we had 2 teams and they would finish in 4th and 5th place. Starting off with St Mirren, they would finish 5th and they would win 14, draw 8, lose 16, have a goal difference of 9 and have 50 points. That would be enough for them to qualify for the Europa Conference League. I think personally that is a solid season for St Mirren. One place above them would be Aberdeen. They would have 17 wins, 8 draws, 13 losses, a goal difference of just 2. They'd have 59 points and they would qualify for the Europa League. Now, in comparison to St Mirren, I actually think this is a little bit disappointing. I expected them to finish a lot closer to the old firm and they finished miles behind. In fact, they didn't even finish in 3rd place, which is where I would expect them to be, and they would be 1 point behind Hibernian. Looking at some stats from across the season, in terms of the league average ratings, McMenamin would be the top average rated player for the 2 teams with a 7.38. In terms of assists, he would lead the way there with 15, and Bosoijan would get 11 for Aberdeen. Player of the Match awards, McMenamin would get 9 of those. In the clean sheets, it's Dimitar Mitov with 8 for Aberdeen. In distance covered per 90 minutes is Fraser Taylor with 14.26. Dribbles per 90 minutes is led by McMenamin with 5.78 and Vicente Besoijan would get 5.26. So overall, both teams have performed okay in the league. I think St Mirren have had the better of it. I think Aberdeen probably did underperform a little bit, but they still finished in European qualifying places for both teams. Looking then at St Mirren's other competitions. So they would play in two other competitions, the first of which is the Scottish Gas Men's Scottish Cup. They would get through to the 5th round where they would be knocked out by East Fife. And then in the Premier Sports Cup, they would get through to the quarterfinals where they would be knocked out by Rangers. Let's take a little peek in the data hub and check out some of the numbers that formed the season. So in terms of their general performance, goals per game 1.82, conceded per game 1.58. They would have on average 13.29 shots per game and have a pass completion ratio of 82.86. Let's have a look at the squad and see who contributed the most across the season. So Jonah Ayunga would be their top goal scorer. He would get 29 goals and 10 assists. McMenamin would be the most consistent performer. He'd get 24 goals and chip in with 27 assists. You then have Jameson with 21 goals and 4 assists. Mark O'Hara with 14 goals and 9 assists. Caelan Boyd-Muntz would get 10 goals and 14 assists. And further down, you would have Scott Tanser with 11 assists. So it's quite obvious that the assists and the goals are coming from the wide areas. Both Ayunga and McMenamin can play in the wider areas. Ayunga is a striker too. Lewis Jameson chipping in. But they have relied heavily on the top portion of their squad. And certainly the players in the attacking areas. The big question is, how does that compare to Aberdeen? So let's check in on Aberdeen's other competitions. We already know how they have got on in the league, but what other competitions did they play in? So let's kick things off with the domestic cups. They would play in the Scottish Gas Men's Scottish Cup, where they would get through to the 5th round, but be knocked out by Queen's Park. In the Premier Sports Cup, they would get through to the semi-finals, and they too would be knocked out by Rangers. Then they would play in European competition. Firstly, they would play in the Europa League, where they would get knocked out in the league path, second qualifying round by Football Club Copenhagen, and then they would move into the Conference League, where they'd be knocked out in the league path, fourth qualifying round by Fiorentina. Moving on and looking at some of the numbers in the data hub to define their season. So their general performance, goals per game 1.82, goals conceded per game 1.76. They would have 13.26 average shots per game. They'd have a pass completion ratio of 84.62%. Looking then at the squad to see who contributed to their season, they have a clear leader in terms of goals, and it's Esther Sokler. He would score 44 goals and have 16 assists. You then have Topi Keskinen. He would get 18 goals and 8 assists. Graham Shinney would get 12 goals and 19 assists. Leighton Clarkson chipping in from the centre of the park with 10 goals and 17 assists. Further down the list, you would have Nilsson get 13 assists. Devlin get 13 assists. Pasoijan getting 13 assists. And Jack McKenzie 11 assists. So unlike St Mirren, they have spread the assists around, but they have relied on one or two players to score the bulk of their goals, especially Sokler up front, playing either as a wide player from the left or as a striker. He's the one that contributed the most and was really Aberdeen's main man. And finally, we move on to Manchester United, where we're looking at the Premier League. Sad to say, it's a disappointing campaign for Manchester United. They would finish in 11th place, and it's safe to say that the days of the 4-4-2 dominating the Premier League are probably over, and the AI Grok version of Fergie's 4-4-2 can't even help them to change their fortunes in the game. Breaking down their 11th place finish, they would win 13, draw 8, lose 17, have a -2 goal difference, and they would finish on 47 points. Just to put that into context, Wolves would get relegated in 18th place. They'd finish on 31 points. Manchester United would be just 16 points above them. It's a little bit disappointing because I thought that they would have done better. They did qualify for the Europa League, and we'll get onto that in just a second. Looking above them in the table, they would finish 5 points behind Aston Villa. They would finish behind Newcastle, Leeds, Everton up there, Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea. And in this simulation, crazily, West Ham would go on to finish in second place. Looking at the stats across the rest of the season, there are no individual players' performances that are ranked in terms of the Premier League. Looking at the other competitions then, to explain how they qualify for the Europa League in 11th place, that is because they would win the Europa Conference League. They would get all the way to the final where they would play against AS Monaco, and they would win 3-0 in the final to make sure that they would qualify for the next season's Europa League. In terms of the domestic cups, in the FA Cup they would get through to the third round, which is where they enter, and they would be knocked out by Arsenal. In the Carabao Cup they would also reach the third round, where they'd be knocked out by Bristol City. Let's go and have a little look at the data hub just to check out some of the numbers across their season. And we can see it's pretty disappointing when looking at their general performance. Goals per game would just be 1.45. Goals conceded per game is 1.5. Shots per game, 11.16. And a pass completion ratio of 85.43. Looking at the squad to see who contributed the most and who would get the most impressive numbers. Joshua Zirkzee would be the one, 24 goals and 14 assists. Marcus Rashford with 23 goals and 11 assists. Højlund would get 22 goals and 6 assists. Bruno Fernandes would get 14 goals and 20 assists. Anthony would contribute with 11 goals and 19 assists. Garnacho with 12 goals. The reason for this also is I have run a database that goes forward to 2024, and I've only used the summer transfer update, not the winter transfer update, which explains why Marcus Rashford is still in the team as Anthony, and so on and so forth. But either way, it doesn't matter where the players are playing or who the players are. They have underperformed in this 4-4-2, and that is completely simple to see. They should be doing far better than 11th in the league. They should be doing better in terms of a goal difference. -2 is disappointing. When you look at the players that got at their disposal, I don't think that the tactic really suits them anymore. I think that they are a team that is far more progressive. And I think that maybe the 4-4-2 is outdated now in the Premier League. And it's unfortunate because Fergie had a lot of success with it in the late 80s, 90s and the early 2000s, but it's just a tactic that has really been outthought and outmoved past. Although when you look at the performance of St Mirren and Aberdeen, maybe there is a place for it, but the Premier League just isn't it anymore. So there we go. Those are the results of the 3 teams that we did the test on. And to be fair, it's been a bit of a mixed bag of results. Looking at the Scottish team, St Mirren, I think they did really well. They would have beaten their projections. They qualified for the Europa Conference League, finished in 5th place and had a solid season. In terms of Aberdeen, I personally was disappointed that they couldn't get 3rd place in the Scottish Premiership. I thought they should have been closer to the old firm. And in terms of Manchester United, I think that the club is a bit of a mess in real life anyway. But the tactic certainly didn't help them in the game. I think the personnel they have is probably a bit more free-flowing than an old-school 4-4-2 tactic requires. And I think that it probably held them back, and that is the cause for the 11th place. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Can Grock replicate Fergie's tactics? Did the 4-4-2 do anything? I don't think it probably did. And I think the answer there is that yes, it can replicate the tactics. Can it capture that magic of Fergie? Absolutely not. Again, let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts and opinions on the video and the tactic in question. Whilst you're there, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. Check out the rest of the content on the channel. If you want to have a go with this tactic to see if you can do better than the 3 teams that I tested it on, there'll be a link to this tactic in the description down below. For this one though, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for your time and attention. Hopefully I'll catch you on another video very soon.